Bethlehem of Judah went to sojourn to the country of Moab, he, his wife, and his sons. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi. And his two sons were named Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites, and I'm reading from Amplified, from Bethlehem of Judah. They went to the country of Moab and continued there. Verse 3 says, but Elimelech, who was Naomi's husband, died. And she was left with her two sons, Amplified 4, and they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of one wife was Opah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They dwelt there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them. So the woman was bereft of her two sons and her husbands. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in Moab how the Lord had visited his people, giving them food. 7, so she left the place where she was, her two daughters-in-law with her, and they started on the way back to Judah. But Naomi, said to her two daughter-in-laws, go, return, each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. 9, the Lord grant that you may find a home and rest, each in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. 10, and they said to her, no, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? I have yet sons in my womb that may become your husbands. Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I say I have hope, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it is far more bitter for me than for you to have the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. So the story goes on, and so here's the background. And you heard the story of Naomi. Naomi was married to her husband named Elimelech, and years' time passed. Elimelech died. Then she had two sons. She gave birth to two boys, and the boys got married, but because of the time and the war that went forth, the boys died too. Her sons died, leaving she and her two daughter-in-laws as widows. During that time, in the book of Ruth comes right after the book of Judges in the Bible. And the judges were in the earth, and they were making times really hard. They were like the government. And so this was a time of famine, and people were without food all over the countryside. But at this time, this was not the time to be a widow. See, widows today are different than widows then, because widows were ignored. Being a widow, not having a man to protect you and your family, during that time, the government didn't take care of widows. If they didn't have the nearest relative, the law at that time was the Israelites' law, was that if a husband died, the nearest male in the family that was nearest to that woman had the privilege to marry her and take care of her. Why? Because he was to keep carrying that name in the earth. And so she said, I have no relatives to marry me. And here she had two girls, and she wasn't sending the girls just back to their families, but she knew that the life of a widow was going to be a life of poverty. So she's sending them, go back to your family. Saying in short, perhaps your nearest relative, someone in another man's family will marry you. And here's the deal. She said, and then you can go on and give birth and have children. The power of having children and the importance of having children and having children, particularly sons, was an inheritance, because the sons kept the property. The sons kept the name. The sons kept all of the money and the value that the families established over the years. So this was a real serious decision that the two girls had to make. One chose to stay with her. We know her as Ruth, which now the book is named after. And Ruth was a Moabite. The Moabites had no dealings with the Israelites. So it was odd that the son married a Moabite. Why did they not have any relationship with the Israelites? Well, when the Israelites came out of Egypt and that Exodus took place that we all know of, Moses took them and brought them out of Egypt. Well, they were on their way out to the promised land, and they had a shorter route through the land of the Moabs. But the Moabs said, no, you can't pass through our land. They had to go around. And for that very sake, because the Moabites would not let the Israelites pass through their land, they were no longer friends. So what we would think is just a normal, as we think in Americans' terms, it's just a mother and a daughter-in-law. No, it's two cultures coming together. Where there was tension, there was tenderness. It should have been tension in all outdoors. She's marrying an Israelite. He's marrying a Moabite. We don't marry Moabites. When we were in our desperate place, they wouldn't even let us come through. They wouldn't let us pass through their land. We had to go around. Millions of Israelites. Millions came out of Egypt. And yet these people who had the land, these people who had the property, come on, wake up. These people who owned everything, and you're going to go over and marry that? When we were at our lowest state and we didn't have anything, you're going to step out from us? I'm trying to say something. You're going to marry something that don't look like your mama, who carried you, who nurtured you, who breastfed you, who wiped your bottom, and you're going to step out from among us and go into that land and then bring her back to us and expect us to take her in, her people? So where there was, we would think, tension, there was tenderness. For 10 years, Ruth, Houpe were daughter-in-laws to and married to Naomi's sons. So Naomi now she's very selfless. And she says, go home. Girls, don't stay here. Don't stay here. Don't stay here. Go home. One of the two decides and say, oh, I'm going to go back. Houpe went back to her family. She returned back to her homeland. Ruth decided, and this was perhaps one of the most powerful verses in Scripture. Let's look at this. Yes, we know now Houpe goes back. And Ruth makes this powerful declaration. And I'm looking for it. And she says, oh boy, thank you. She says in verse 17, in verse 16, and Ruth said, urge me not to leave you, Naomi, or to turn back and go back to my family from following you. She says in 16, for where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will lodge, I will live. Naomi, your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. 17 is even deeper. She goes this far to say, and where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death, say but death, parts from you. So Naomi, God, the scripture goes on and say, Naomi saw this girl is going to, here we are, she's going to stay connected. One had the privilege of staying connected. One chose to not stay connected. One said, listen, I've been around you 10 years. And the Moabites, they did not serve the God that Naomi served. Not only did they not let the people through, the Moabites, when the Israelites got to their land and built their tabernacles, the Israelites did not allow the Moabites to come into their tabernacle. They couldn't even come in and worship. You wouldn't let us through. You don't serve our God. Why are you coming to our church? In short, that's the 2019 version of it. So they wouldn't let the Moabites into their tabernacle, but Ruth watched Naomi for 10 years. There's some 10-year Naomi's, there's 10-year Ruths in here. They watched. She watched Naomi, and she said, no, I'm going to stay right here. Your God's going to be my God. Your people are going to be my people. Where you go, I'm going. I'm going. You go wherever you go, Naomi. In what you're missing, it was a famine. Circumstances, they were widows. Circumstances, they were poor. Circumstances, they had no food. Circumstances, they didn't have anything. And she still stayed with Naomi because they had their God. See, most of us like to hook up with people. We look for the person who has something. We want to be around the person who has something to give to me. We want to hang around that person who has a home. Naomi had no home. We want to be around the person who drives the car. Naomi had no car. We think we're around the person rubbing shoulders because they had plenty, and because they had plenty, we think their plenty going to become our plenty. We choose to connect for all the wrong reasons, and so we get all the wrong results. I'm often concerned with who wants to come around me because the first thing I'm thinking is, what do you want? I'm not saying it, but I'm thinking it. What does she want? I'm not saying it, but I'm thinking it. What does she want? When you hang around my children, I'm thinking, when you hang around Harvest Church, I don't know why you come because it's a big church and maybe you got a business. Maybe you think you're going to launch your business. Maybe you think you're an evangelist and you're going to get the mic because you got something to say. Maybe you've been called into ministry, so maybe you think you're going to preach. When we got a preacher, when we have an evangelist, when we have a teacher, we have a great teacher, we have a great prophet. So how do you think that you're going to come and we don't need that? It's not what we need. You got to go somewhere that needs that. Go somewhere that needs that. We don't need that. Or you get a person who's on the side who wants to take you to another church because it's growing. And they're feeding differently over there. And so some of you get caught up. Bishop taught Wednesday about the trickery, the deceit of the enemy. So you think it's better over there. I'm talking about the power of staying connected. See, I don't have to end the story on Ruth because it's just 4 chapters. I read the whole 4 chapters, Amplified, Life Application, Amplified, King James, International, any translation. I just wanted to see, was anything any differently? And they all ended in victory because of the connection. So when Naomi was poor, Ruth was poor, but Ruth was all right. Ruth was good. She was all right. So in Naomi's sorrow, Ruth would share the sorrow. Let's talk about a few things. So we got the background on the widows. You understand what's happening? We're getting this. We got the background on how the law was, the nearest relative. Well, there's a few things that we want to look at when it comes to relationships. When it comes to relationships, like Naomi, what are some characteristics we want to look at? when you're in a relationship with a real true relationship with a person. And I'm going to use the word simultaneously, relationship and a connection. So sometimes you'll hear me say, when you're connected, it means relationship. Because God connects us by the Spirit, connects us by our heart. He connects us. He brings a person into your life for a reason. Many, many times it's either for you to enhance their life, and even when they're down, at that time, you'll bring them up. But when they come up, they won't forget you. They won't forget you. You're going to see that in the story. That's what good relationships. Let's look at the first principle of what good relationships do. One thing about good relationships, and we saw that between the Moabites and the Israelites, number one, there was love there. What does love do? Love automatically overrides differences. Love overrides the differences. So we're not the same. We're not from the same place. But because I love you, I still love you. So we didn't grow up in the same neighborhood, didn't go to the same school, don't even go to the same church maybe. But because there's love, we're connected. Our hearts are connected. It just overrides the differences. So you don't see it that way. You might raise your children one way and I raise my children another way. But because I love you, it overrides the difference. So you went out and you got pregnant. It overrides our differences. So I don't have a college degree, and you think I'm more than that because I have a college degree and you don't have a college degree, but our love overrides differences. So you're from a different neighborhood, different part of town. Here's one that's almost kind of really, really funny, but it's real true. Because you all cook differently. You all cook differently than I'm used to eating. That's husbands and wives. Love will override that. Somewhere you've got to help each other when it comes to our differences. I married Bishop. The North married the South. Grits with sugar, grits with salt. How do you eat your grits? He likes sugar. All the people who likes grits with sugar, raise your hand. Ooh, look at all the people with sugar. All of you who like your grits with salt, raise your hand. Ooh, look at all the salt. Sugar's one. All of you who don't even like grits, wave your hand. So I've got 6 children. Bishop's like sugar. Four of them like grits with sugar. Darrell and I like grits with salt. And Jonathan doesn't like grits. So I've got a big pot of grits with sugar. I've got a little pot of grits with salt. And I better not put any grits on that plate number 7. Plate number 8, because they were served in order. Dad, all the 6 children, and then myself. And plate number 8, 7 was Jonathan, because my plate was last. Plate number 7, I'm on number 7, no grits. Love overrides the differences. And sometimes those very small differences in the marriage can just tear it apart. But if love is truly there, it overrides that. Now this is what I do. I figured that out. I say, salt cannot override sugar in grits. But sugar put on top of the grits that I made with salt, I can cook 1 pot of grits. So I cook 1 pot of grits with salt, and I hand everybody the sugar dish. I take my grits out first, and I slide that little salt by me. Darrell has been won over. He eats sugar, grits now with sugar. The power of staying connected. Jonathan still eats no. Good class. That's a real simple truth, but love overrides differences. Stay in love with those people that are close to you. And let their differences just be different and still love them. The second principle, what love does. Love is selfless. Love is selfless. Naomi, as much as she loved those girls, she was selfless. She was ready to let them go. Your children are of age now, and they are wanting to go Of all of my 6 children, 3 wanted to fly out that nest when they were 12 years old. They thought they could tackle the world. The other 3 was totally fine being at home and next to us. But we knew we had some birds that had to fly. And some of you mothers are smothering your children. Some of you mothers are hovering over your children. And you got a flyer. They're ready to go. I sat down with a mother one day. I said, let her go. Let her fly. She won't fly far. You done your part. Let her fly. Let her go. She'll come back. She's got to go out there to see what's out there so she can come back. She can come back to you and then come and get you and take you there. I said, she's a good girl. Let her fly. I just had this conversation with the mother just last week. And it's time for her daughter to go on. I said, let her go. She's ready to fly. Some children are ready to fly. Now, the other 3, they weren't ready to fly. The mother eagle just takes them when they're not ready to fly and throw them out the nest. She does. An eagle does that. And then she watches. She watches, and her babies never hit the ground. If they look like they're going to hit the ground, she just, come on, use your wings. Use what I taught you. Flap. Stay in there. You're not going to fall. Come on, do that. Pray. Stand. Believe. Get back up. Come on, do that. Do that. Come on, baby. Come on. I need you to do that. Mama's not going to always be here. Daddy's not going to always be here. My mother would say when I'm dead and gone, come on, Leah. Come on, Leah. Come on, do that. Dry your eyes. Pick it up. Come on, you're going to be a mother one day. Fly, baby, fly. And then one day they... Stephen, Justin, Benjamin, because not only did he fly, he came back and no, that's important. No, you don't get the meaning of that, because I'm going to get to the end of the story. I'm going to get to the end of the story of Ruth. I'm going to get to the end of the story of Ruth. Darrell. Jonathan. Fly. Selfless. Number 3, love. Love, and this is the biggest one. Over time, love stands the test. Stands the test of time. Your love for your children, your love for your ministry, your love for your family, it will stand the test of time. And when time will test you, love will stand through. Love will bring you through. So as we travel on to the verse of chapter 2 and chapter 2 now, so Naomi returns to the land, and she returns back home to Bethlehem, because in Bethlehem, she knows, hey, there's food in Bethlehem. It's a time of harvest. It's time of harvest. They had 2 harvests in Bethlehem, one in the fall and one in the spring. Scripture doesn't actually tell us what season they went back in, but we do know that they harvest the crops in the fall and they harvest the crops in the spring. And this was the time of what? And the time of harvest, the word harvest, Minister Ben taught us that to harvest means to gather. So it was the time of the harvest, so they returned back to the harvest. And the name of our church is? And harvest means to? And those who are lost will return back to the. When they return back, selfless love we have for them. When they return back, we don't ask, where you been? What you been doing? Well, you got a baby now. Oh, you're not married? Oh, really? Look like you've been going through. All those wrong things, greeters, ushers, members, family. There's a reason why some of our children and some of our family won't come back to the harvest. It's because you judged them before they even got to the door. It's your family. Where you go, Your God would be their God. Your people would be their people. Then where's your people? See, winning souls starts in the family. It doesn't start with the person at the restaurant. It doesn't start with the person on the corner. You don't have to walk up and down the streets. We got enough family right here in Kansas City to fill this church up and go to 3 services. If you would just have exercised selfless love. If each of you would just exercise selfless love. Now, I'm not talking about those people who won't leave their church. I'm not talking about winning the church. I'm talking about the ones who have not gone to church. The ones who are down. No, they're not lost. Some are not lost because they knew God. They just strayed away. Now, some are lost because they don't know God. But they're not lost. But your love, your selfless love, just let for this week, I'm challenging you to pour out love on your loved ones. Pour out love on your loved ones. The last Sunday of every month, we're going to declare it Friends and Family Sunday. And I'm just going to believe, God, that this house will be full because your friends and your family that you love, that you're connected to, as you're connected to your God, who have no church home. I don't want your family who goes to church where they miss their church. I'm talking about those who are not at church. Bring your loved ones home and just let them receive. Don't say a word. Let them receive the love from the parking attendants that we're going to exude from our hearts to them. Let them embrace the love that comes from our greeters who's going to be happy from this point on. Greeters who are going to be happy from this point on. Greeters who are going to be in training Tuesday night. When we all have training, it's a Tuesday, Minister Ben, or Thursday? Tuesday night, we're all coming. Everyone is coming to training. Everyone is coming to training. It starts at 6:30. We're going to have a little time of fellowship, a little game, and then we're going to get into training on how to become a selfless, loving person. Why? Because God is love. And if he's in us, the greater one is in us, then we have the potential to love at all times. We have the potential to love despite our differences. We have the potential to love. We have the potential to love selflessly, and we have the potential to love to stand the test of time. Never change your position. I had 2 ladies I talked to in the last few weeks. They're just returning back to Harvest Church. They said, I'm back, Mrs. Houpe. I said this. I said, although you left, you never left my heart. And there's so many I see all throughout the city, they never left bishops in my heart. They just got to get through all your judgment. They got to get through you. We can see them all in the groceries. We see them at restaurants. We pay for their meals sometimes before we can pay our meals. They're not members anymore. They pay for our meals. We see their children. And it takes getting through all of you just to get to us. 10 members, 10 years. We're members 13 years. We're members long ago. But they already say, we want to come back, but the people. But the people. Staying connected. Who are you stumbling? Who are you stumbling? Blessed is the man who stands not in the path of sinners, who stands not in the way. Blessed is the woman and man of God, who stands not in the way of the old member who wants to come in. That man is stumbling them. Blessed is that man who doesn't stand in their way. You're a member of Harvest Church, sticker on your bumper car or no sticker, and you're out drinking. Blessed is that man who's not on Facebook, that woman cussing. Somebody was following me on Facebook, and they were cussing, just started out the day. Just, them little words, this day is, and I said, and they're following me. I wanted to unfriend them. I said, no, I'm not going to unfriend them. I'm going to message them and say, take that stuff down. I said, you take that stuff down. Represent God up there cussing. You having a bad day, get on your knees and pray. And this is what I told her. I said, and I'm telling Pastor. Up there cussing, misrepresenting us, stumbling everybody. call yourself a child of God with the next breath, guess what? Don't say no, no. You say some stuff too. So don't judge her. That's why she can't get through you. Because you saying, you cuss too. You just don't put it on Facebook. You got people following you, just not on Facebook. Anyway, guess what? She came to church, sure did. She apologized. I'm so sorry. I had nerve to call me mom. Okay, Mom, I'm really going to spank you. She came to church, said, Mom, came up to Bishop. She always sows into my life. Always sowing into our life. That's the principle, too. We're going to talk about that by Ruth. Always sowing into our lives. Got up in front of Bishop. She didn't know I was going to tell. Bishop's first thing he said, you stop all that cussing. And she said, Dad, I took it down. She works close to me now. I love her. She's right by my side. I called. I said, I need your help. I called her. I didn't call no name out. I called her one day. I said, I